You trying to say Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball?
Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. Drives on drive. Way back. It might be. It could be. And
This is the Team of Rivals podcast. No insiders, no anonymous sources, just passionate analysis from the bleacher seats. Here are your hosts.
All right, everyone, as we go live tonight, we're down. There he is. We're at full strength now. Pete has just got out of the penalty box. As we go live tonight, this is something that's been on my mind for several weeks. Not just about baseball not being there, when it'll come back, what form it'll come back in, what will some of the changes look like, etc. I really kind of I've experienced a baseball fatigue, and what I mean by fatigue is that I've experienced a lot of eye rolling, a lot of sighing, a lot of just plain old getting tired of the top 10 lists, getting tired of the Mount Rushmore conversations, getting sick and tired of MLB Network radio. That's anything that's MLB related that's official has just been so bland, so provolone cheese like that I just can't stand it anymore. In fact, as I bring my co-hosts on, I want to hear what they think. They don't necessarily share my opinion. I don't know one way or the other. There is a horrendous noise that one of you are making, and I'm going to take myself off solo. Sorry, guys, that was very selfish of me. I was
I'm just
rambling
going
on.
to assume that horrendous noise was Elliot.
No,
the show.
Yeah, I think he's got his shit together on our last official baseball only premise. But yeah, guys, you guys seen it. I've seen a few texts from me and a few pictures I've taken where I've just been like, oh my God, are we really doing this? Like, what makes an ace an ace? Who are the aces around the league? Like, fuck. I mean, I just got a new car. I traded one in that had an issue with the wheel, and I didn't want to deal with it. Traded in, got something new, and of course, I had not been subscribing to SiriusXM. Of course, it comes with it. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll try it on here. No shit. 5 minutes into my new ride, and that's when I took that picture, guys. And I'm like, this is what we do now. We do top 10 lists, favorite memories, all this other stuff, and it was kind of cool for a few weeks. I'm done with it, and I've kind of like grown fatigued on just the way certain fans behave and what they post and what they always constantly want to talk about, and they're going to die without baseball. I'm just over it. And in these last 2 months, since we've kind of opened ourselves up to other topics, because let's face it, we can be like every other swinging dick on a podcast and talk about the same exact shit everybody else does, and nobody wants to hear it, right? Because they've heard it 30 times throughout the week on whatever it is they listen to. I've enjoyed opening us up to other things, and so I'm looking forward to tonight being over and getting on with that, because I've enjoyed that way more than what I've enjoyed exclusively just sticking to baseball. I know you guys don't have to share my opinion, but it sounds like we might all be in a very similar place.
Yeah. I've muted my MLB notifications because I keep thinking that like maybe I'm going to see an update about, them getting a date, and it's all this bullshit. Like you said, Top 10 list, best of all time. Who's your third baseman? It's like, I don't give a shit. I want some actual news. And if there's not going to be, don't ping me.
I know. And you know what? I want to point out somebody that's on here right now. The name's Mark Littell. If you see him in the chat, Mark Littell, a former St. Louis Cardinals and Kansas City Royals pitcher, he's been on as a guest with several of the shows we have done. The best guest you could possibly have on a podcast. So Mark, I know it's last minute, and I fought the urge to hit you up on an instant message earlier. I'm gonna send you my number over DM. If you want to call in, we would love to talk to you tonight, and I would love to specifically talk to you tonight about that story you posted on, because that's some funny shit. These two here probably haven't seen it because they're dirty ass Cub fans. They definitely haven't seen it. It's a great story, and I want to go ahead, Elliot. I'm gonna try to contact Mark here just on Messenger, see if he's interested in chatting with us for a few minutes.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of where my feelings lie. I mean, I really don't like, and I flipped over to MLB Network, and it's the same shit every single day, and I've really kind of gotten tired of it. I mean, my morning check-in is at Bleacher Nation to kind of see what's going on, and then I kind of check in with them in the evening to see if there's been any updates, because most of my day is either taken up with, like the rest of you guys, homeschooling with the kid, trying to get in some classwork, going to work because I am an essential worker, and that's, and by the time I get home, I have precious time with my family and with my son, and it's like right now it's on my mind, but it's generally the last thing that's on my mind, and unless there's actual news, I don't want to see anything.
Yeah, I'm with you, Elliot, and you as well, Ron. Tired of getting jerked around, hearing all kinds of dates and plans being floated out there. And you're right. I can only rely on nostalgia so much. And I got my fill of it watching The Last Dance. And the thing that was great about The Last Dance was I was finding out things that I didn't know about a team that I was very much invested in when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Teenager into my early 20s. And so now you're absolutely right, Ron. Like these, who's on your Mount Rushmore and all this. I'm with you. I just don't care.
It's tiring. We have on with us, I believe. Hopefully we can hear him. Mark, can you hear us? Oh, you know what? I've got to get you. I've got to get you on my board for some reason. Elliot, of course, our third co-host here has disappeared in front of the camera and the microphone. That's pretty typical. But I think I got you now on there, Mark. Okay, we got Mark Littell on with us, and I believe Pete. Give me a nod if you can hear him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep. We got you. Mark, the story you posted tonight about, I believe it was 1991, a good old fashioned brawl. We have a lot of we have a lot of people on here watching. So if you'd like to share this live with some of the listeners right now, I think it's great. And I'm probably going to force you to revisit my favorite story of all time.
Whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, so if you want to, please just walk us through that, because that was the best thing I've read. Baseball related, that's the best thing I've read in like 2 months.
Well, anyway, but I was coaching with Boach. I was his pitching coach out in High Desert, and that's in the California League. And Bruce Bochy was the manager. I was pitching coach, like I said, and we were playing the Dodgers and Bakersfield team. Well, we would end up having 9 guys eventually go to the big leagues, and the Dodgers had 8. But unfortunately, they ended up having 2 Hall of Famers off of that team as well, and Hershiser and a couple other guys were pretty close as well. So you figure that out, what the matchups were like.
Right.
And it was pretty tight. High Desert, that was their very first year as a team. It was out in the middle of the desert. There was a bunch of desert rat people out there, and ladies with a whole lot of tattoos and stuff like that, all kinds of shit. But we were playing Bakersfield, and Pedro Martinez was the starting pitcher. And my guys got on the line the other day, and they started chirping, and then so I chimed in, and Ray Hobart, who was the shortstop, he got 5 years in the big leagues. Pedro threw at him twice, and I said, "Well, that's a bunch of shit." So anyway, we had a wild ass left-hander out there that didn't know where the ball was going, so I could get away with murder that night. And so he gets knocked down. Next inning comes up, and the guy that was throwing the fingers down, which was Mike Piazza was the catcher. So Piazza's back there throwing the fingers down, and I said, well, that's the guy you want to go after right there. So anyway, we got guys on first and second, and it didn't matter if we drill him because we got the bases loaded, double plays in order anyway, so it doesn't matter. So my guy's going to hit him in the side somewhere. Unfortunately, Billy Badass goes out there, and his fastball kind of veered upward and into the guy's noggin, and it pretty much wiped Piazza out, and he was sitting there in front of the plate for about 30 seconds, cold as a wedge. And so both pitches came to the top step and put their spikes right in the dirt and held the ground while everybody's looking at Piazza, and Blue Boy trainer from Bakersfield's over there trying to revive him. Well, he rattles around eventually. I mean, he was cold though, and he just kind of gets up and jerks, and where's the fight? And there's no fight right now. So, and so Bochy's out there, and he's fanning the fire. He's pissed anyway, and he's saying, "Well, hell, we should hit the son of a bitch anyway, probably." And of course, that we could get away with that back then, and because they already thrown it at Ray, and so anyway. Everything gets calmed down after 4 or 5 minutes, and Tommy Byers was the manager, and everybody got back in their dugout. And I'm sure Tommy Byers, because I knew him, I'm sure he said to everybody on the bench, which I mean everybody, because both bullpens had cleared to the bench. Now the bullpens were empty; they were all in the dugout, expecting whatever. And we didn't expect it to happen. Actually, we expected it to be a normal game, but Billy winds up and. He throws a curveball to this Latino second baseman, and he drills the guy. Well, the guy looks in the dugout at Tommy. We've got 5,000 people in a high A ballpark. It's packed that night, and he doesn't know what to do. So he grips the bat up on the brand, and he looks at Tommy. He looks out at Bill, and he throws the bat down, and the fight starts. And it just kept on going for a pretty good time. But you had everybody. You had the cops coming out of the stands, even on their little broomstick horses out there. It was the desert rat cops, and they didn't know what to do. Stay off the field and stay out of the way before they get hurt. Because we didn't matter if a fan ever goes onto a field. Everybody redirects to the fan. By the way, they stop the real fight and redirect to whoever's out there in the wrong uniform. Or no uniform for that matter. So that's exactly what happened. And, it was pretty fun. I mean, that's a normal fight back then. And, so everybody got their licks in and punches in, and everybody went back to normal. And Piazza and Pedro and Earl Hershiser was on that team. And Mondesi was on that team. And then they had a whole bunch of other guys. And we did too. I mean, we had some dandies. We ended up winning the Cal League, though. We beat Martinez that night, like 2-1, I think. But it was a knockdown, drag-out type game.
That's amazing. The names you're bringing up are isn't it, guys, as fans like us, guys, isn't it easy to forget that these guys spent time in the minor leagues? We only remember them as being at the top of the
right
when they were popular in baseball. We forget, and I'm so glad that you posted that tonight and you're talking to us now, because that's a story most of us would have never heard or known about. And I'm sure that it's one of hundreds, and Mark's probably got more stories than what we've got hours left in a day. But Mark, one of the things that I know I had talking to you on a previous show that I thought was hilarious, and I still think about it from time to time, is tell us the lessons about blowing up a tree stump, because this is one of my personal favorites.
Well, about my character, I was kind of a redneck and still am, I guess, to a degree. I'm cultured though now, I'm a cultured redneck. I even go to symphonies once in a while and say, "What the hell is this?" But anyway, my dad, I was 15, my brother was 14. Eric caught me. He played in Mississippi State, and he got drafted twice as a catcher. And my dad, we did everything we could for about 3 days to win him over to let us drive up at, I was driving at 15 out in the middle of nowhere in Missouri to blow this one stump up, because we had been on point with him for blowing stumps for about 3 weeks at the point, and we actually wanted to blow one by ourselves, to show him that we were that kind of, we were the right kind of guy to do this. And so he finally says, he finally breaks down and says to us, he says, I'll let you guys blow that stump if you do one thing, anything, Dad, anything. Once you light the fuse, you don't go back and cut the fuse for any reason. No problem, Dad. That's fine. And he was a Korean War guy, and he got shot all to hell, so he was already pissed off. But the funny thing was we had all of our stuff, loaded up in the truck, and we were driving up to Tallapoosa, Missouri, which was 10 miles, and my grandmother lived up there, my mama Sally. And so Eric and I went and raided the kitchen before we went out to blow the stump. And then we had a case of dynamite, and it was about 3/4 full. And we called them turds when we put them down the hole. He said to put 12 turds down the hole. And so we ended up, Eric and I looked at that stump, this big old oak stump, and we both agreed and said, you know what, it's probably going to need about 6 more. So we had a 6, 6, 6, and we had a devil's load in there, and this stump. So we angled it in right and packed it in right, and we had the orange cord, and we had it all set and put the cap on. That's a real kind of touching thing, right there. You don't want to tap that cap too hard; it could go off. So we set it, and I had a big old international truck. It was like a tank, and so Eric. I said, hey, fire in the hole. You ready? He said, I'm ready. So I lit it, and I jumped in the truck, and we parked the truck right next to the stump, about 10, 12 feet from the stump. And we didn't move it before I lit it. So I light it. I get in the truck starts. I put it into gear. I go forward, go backwards, forward. We're stuck. So the truck, Dad said not to cut the cord. So we said, hey, we got to go. So anyway, we had to leave the truck by our stump with everything lit, so it's going to go off in about 5 minutes because you put a 5-minute fuse on there. So we're out there waiting, and we're not worrying about Dad right now. But when it went off, the truck was between my brother and I, and all we remember was the first thing was glass blew out first. And we felt the earth actually rumble and jiggle for a little bit. And then it went to, it was like a movie. That flew like a movie. I mean, it must have flew 100 feet in the air, and we got sand and dirt and some wood chips on us out 50 yards out, and it blew all the windows out, and we didn't want to see. We were kind of anxious to see what it did to the truck on the driver's side where it was parked, and it just pretty much annihilated the whole side. But there was about a 5.5 foot hole there, and about 15 feet across, and you couldn't even get in the truck. And the store, it was jammed. The lock was jammed on that side. And so we finally got it unstuck, drove out of there. We had no windows to drive home in. So we were eating bugs all the way back. And so, we get back to the house, and our dad was never in the shop, but he was this day for some stupid reason. And so I'm saying, oh my gosh, there's Dad. And so I drive in on the good side, and it looks like all this glass has been Windex, but there's no glass. It's that clear, Man, that glass was really good. Well, there ain't no glass. So my brother gets out. He's got a smart ass. He knew it was my ass in the first place because I'm the guy who lit it and everything else. And so anyway, Eric, Dad said, how'd it go? You guys, get that stump blowing? Eric said, we sure did. And I'm back in the seat, and I'm trying to kick out my door so I can get a running start from Dad coming after me. I mean, tell you the truth, man, I got my ass kicked.
Oh my God!
We got a new truck out of it, though, a 327 engine with a Chevy, and so that's really good. And it was a date truck when I was 16. So there you go.
Oh yeah, that would come in handy. Now I don't know how insurance worked then, or if they cover dynamite, but
well, he called him Sody Hampton, and Sody Hampton said, "Yeah, I can get." How'd you say that truck was annihilated? And he said, "Well, Mark pretty much blew it up." He said, how'd he say? He said he had 12 sticks of dynamite. We didn't tell him we had the other 6 sticks in there.
Okay. Did you ever find out?
Nope.
Okay.
We didn't want that to happen either.
Yeah. I don't blame you for that.
18 sticks of dynamite, under a big stump, that does some serious damage.
Yeah.
Well,
It's fun though.
is it 15 feet across, 5 feet deep? That's a crater impact, I think. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
hey, Mark, while we have you on here, is a couple of things I think that Ian, the guys here might be. By the way, so this is Mark. This is your first appearance on this one. This is the Team of Rivals podcast.
Gotcha.
I think you were on Cards on Deck before in Cardinals Nation 24/7 when I did that one.
Right.
This is the one I've always done. Now, the premise of this one was the two guys on with me are Cubs fans. I'm a Cardinals
That's
fan.
too bad.
Yeah, I know, right? We all grew up in Central Illinois or around that area. We all got to know each other, and so you know
Effingham with the cross.
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, I have blood relatives that are Cubs. You can believe that, but yeah. So being from the region, I'm used to having close friends that happen to be Cubs fans and everything. So we started this show called the Team of Rivals. It's kind of a, hey, look, we're doing a baseball podcast. We're just on rival sides. We're on opposite sides of a rivalry, which is pretty cool. But why we have you on here, Mark, I know you do a lot of work for veterans. You like to visit the hospitals and everything. I'm assuming that most of that's had to take a hiatus given the COVID-19 pandemic. So how have you been staying busy over the last call it 9-10 weeks?
Well, actually, I just finished my third book, and my third book is called "What's Up, Ramrod?" with a question mark on it behind. I got about 77,000 words on that one. It's twice. It's bigger than both the first two books combined, and it's actually a really fun read. That story I wrote today will probably be in another book because I had about 30,000 words left over, and anyway, I just kept writing like I'm ADD as hell. If you hadn't figured that out by now, but anyway.
Yeah, I picked up that on the first show you did with me, but
right.
No, but yeah, so that's great. We know you do a lot of work for veterans and hospitals. You visit all kinds of them, and I'm sure you're anxious to get back to doing that.
Well, the Wake Foundation with Robert Wake, he does a lot, and the foundation does a lot. I was fortunate enough about 3 months ago to get into Tennessee. I did 4 cities over there and got to meet a lot of our good veterans, and they really want to meet and see people, and it's good because I really like to listen to those guys because they've got a lot to say, and you can learn an awful lot from our veterans and a lot of the older guys. I mean, it's just unbelievable what they say about just anything in life, period. But just great people. They've been through a lot, and their families are there a lot of times, and a lot of times they're not there. So any people that come in there and want to talk to them, they actually cherish that. So I think it's a really, really good thing. And I was fortunate enough to go to Nashville and Murfreesboro, Jackson, Tennessee, and I ended up Memphis. Then I did some in Illinois, and they had a concert back in Missouri and Poplar Bluff, and it was all good, and the heart of the earth people, hardworking people, and a lot of the administrators of the state, were there, and the governor was back at our last concert even, and it all worked out pretty well. That fact, good concert.
Yeah, well, that's great work you do, Mark, and as a veteran myself, it's I thank you for giving them your time.
Yeah.
But I want to kick it over to the Cubs fans here so they can ask a St. Louis Cardinal veteran and World Series champion from 1982 any baseball related or not baseball related questions that you might want to throw Mark's way. This is your first time talking to him, Mark. We have Elliot and Pete on with us.
Okay. What's going on, guys?
Mark, do you guys feel bad about having won World Series based on a fan ripping the ball out of Ben Ogilvy's arm and I think like causing some muscle strains or something that I think ultimately ended up turning that series to your favor?
No, anything goes.
There we go. There's your answer, buddy.
Anything goes. I don't see it in no asterisks. Too bad.
Best answer we've had to a Pete question ever. He's looking up something to ask you. I know he was. Like, his eyes darting
Well,
around.
here you go. Matter of fact, the night Lou Brock got his 3,000th hit, we were playing the Cubs in St. Louis. He gets his first hit. right off the bat, he's leading off. In the fourth inning, he drills Lamp in the foot. Gets his second hit. They stop the game for 10 minutes. Everything. The unique thing about that game is I pick up the win against the Cubs. Ha, 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 ha. So anyway,
That's probably one of the most exciting things that has happened in St. Louis. So how boring is it down there?
He had to pull a Chris Bryant question out there or statement.
Well, they already draw 42,000 a game at plus. I don't see the Cubs doing that.
I don't know. I tell you, Mark, I don't know how many.
If they had the seats, they'd be pretty close.
They do. You're right. Cubs are good fans, though.
Yeah,
about half of them.
No, I will agree with you on that, Ron, that about half the fans in the stadium are paying attention. The other half are trying to get on, or were trying to get on the WGN Cam fan.
Yeah, right. Or just wasted out in the bleachers. It's
true.
Bleachers are a question I want to throw to Mark here in a little while about his experience one time in Cleveland, but I'll save that here for a few minutes. Mark, so baseball has had to take a pause, right? And what do you think about this proposal that's being talked about? And it sounds like there's real smoke, and there could be some fire behind this, but a new kind of reorganized league for 2020 where we have 10. We have 3 divisions, 10 teams in each division. There's no longer an American or National League this year, and it's a universal DH. So what kind of overall thoughts about how they might handle that?
Well, I think they have to do whatever they have to do to get on the field. And I really don't see anything wrong with that, because it's almost like, you have the American League, National League, and you got the Central Division like that where, the Cardinals, Cubs, Kansas City, I think Texas is in there, but you see a lot of those teams right there that we're accustomed to, but they've got to get something going so you can get these people out of their houses and seeing some baseball. I'm not so sure they're going to end up in the stadium, but at least it's going to be on TV to let let them see what's when people are pissed after work, and hopefully they're all working, thank God. But the thing about it is, hopefully they're working and they can come home to a game, and that would be the right thing.
Yeah, so, I think that's the one noticeable change here is that I found myself at times just wanting to have, even if I wasn't going to watch every single pitch, there's something about just having it on the background, or having Mike Shannon on the radio in the background, or Dan McLaughlin on Fox Sports Midwest, just having it on and having it present. There are definitely times that I missed that. But Mark, so I mentioned the universal DH, and I know this has been a thing that's been hanging out there. It feels like forever, but the National League always feels like the Alamo to me. Like it's the last stand, right? It's in the minor leagues. You've coached in all kinds of places. It's like everywhere. National League's like the last holdout. So, do you think if it shows up this year, if it's true, do you feel like it's going to stick and it's just going to be a permanent thing, or do you think they're going to go back to non-DH in the National League in 21?
I hope they drop that DH out, because when you go into the National League, it makes the game of baseball the real game, and the manager has to make that extra move. With the DH, you have less pitching. You can actually work with 10. And I was on a team that worked with 9 for 3 weeks when I was with the Royals in '76, and we actually won the division then. But that was under Whitey over there. But the factor of the DH is, but they're talking about the 30 players and all this other stuff, and the minor leagues are basically screwed out this year, and they got 42 teams missing on next year. That's another factor, and that's going to be a big ouch as well. And they're dressing it down. It's an economics thing, is what it is, and whether it be good or bad, I don't know. But you're going to have a lot of minor league baseball that is economically going to hurt some cities, and the fans. You wonder where they're going to go see some baseball. That's the other factor, because it. I know I switched subjects right there. I'm not a real fan of that, and I was in the American League and came along with the DH. Matter of fact, I was the first Royals pitcher to hit under the DH rule. It's funny.
Wow.
So, okay. Matter of fact, Whitey asked me. He said, he called me airhead. He said, "Air, when's the last time you hit?" I said, A ball." He said, "You're up for it."
Mark, did they even have a helmet that fit you?
Well, the thing is, I hit left-handed, and I'm deaf in my right ear. So I went up with a helmet on the other side, and the players didn't know why. And I said, "Well, hell, I don't give a shit about my right side, you know." Of course, it's facing the hitter with no flap. I was trying to screw everybody up, in the first place.
That's awesome. Hey, I don't think George Brett was that he hit the home run, and it was the pine tar incident. But I know you're friends with George. You talked to him, but
yeah.
So I don't think you were on the Royals when that happened. I think you were with the Cardinals. Am I correct about that?
Exactly. Yeah, the next year.
Did you ever get to talk to him about that? Does he ever watch that replay, that clip, and look like, Jesus, do I really look like that when I lose my mind? Did you ever talk to him about that incident?
Well, that's Georgie, though. Part of it was George. Part of it was maybe an act. I don't know. But, that was the moment at the time. And it's been carried on for 4 years now, so that's good.
See you.
Yeah, so my son Mark has just barged into the show here. He's 15. He's a big time Cardinals fan. I don't know if he can hear us yet. Braden, can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear us? Okay, I'm about to boot him. Anyway, so, he could be in bed. Anyway, so Mark, a couple other things about just the game as it currently sits. So I personally feel that if the DH shows up in 2020, I don't think it's going to go away. I think that players, and I agree with you. I enjoy the National League style of baseball. All of us do on this show because we're all National League fans. But I just have a suspicion that the players are probably going to want this because it creates 15 more positions in baseball that aren't there today. And I'll look at a contract perhaps like Albert Pujols that may not have gotten a 10-year deal at age 32 if the American League team he signed with didn't have that, right? Miguel Cabrera perhaps doesn't sign that long-term extension if they don't have the DH. That's why
exactly. Economics is in the owner's favor at this point if you do that.
Right. Yeah.
Because you can go options up and down with the pitchers anyway, and you're still going to have your 4 to 5 good pitchers. You're still going to have your 6 to 8, position players that can do their thing, and then you're going to weed in what you have to weed in and out, and trade what you have to trade for if you got something close coming down the pike, as a playoff. So, it's going to be a totally different game. There's been a lot of changes. And there's been a lot of drastic changes all at once, over the last 3 to 5 years anyway. And wow, interesting.
Yeah.
And they talk about the time factor. Well, you look at the time factor in about 2.5 minutes is that when they have a gripe about a call, and on a replay. And well, it takes, I think the average is like almost 3 minutes, somewhere in there. And if you do that like 6 times, that's a lot of time. So,
yeah,
I mean, some way they got to figure that out. I'm sure the strike zone, the automatic, technology is coming to call the strike, where the umpire is back there and it's saying strike in his earphone.
That's a job I want.
Who you go to bits to?
Right.
This is going to be the first guy kicked out, by technology.
Can't wait. I actually can't wait to see that. And, when I initially heard this, I thought, what is there going to be some kind of robot back there? Are you going to get into an argument with a robot? Because that would be hilarious. I can imagine like a Roomba, like one of those.
Hey, it's gonna make Angel Hernandez a better umpire.
That's true.
I actually would be okay with the robot back there as long as they can program them with different umpires' personalities. So you can get the great big strike calls, you can get the very simple strike, and you get real demonstrative ones. Then I'm good with it.
You look at this. You look at Maddox is a great pitcher, but he always got that little edge. He kept going out and out and out, and he kept getting that strike zone wider.
Right.
Well, this one's not going to lie.
No.
It'll say ball.
or
Ball.
you're right, and it's not going to be biased as to who's on the mound either. It's not going to matter, and that's a great point, Mark. And that's what I always thought about this. Like, who does this work for more? Like, who gets the benefit of an automated strike zone? It's no doubt the hitters, right? Because a strike is going to be a strike. And to your point, somebody like Maddox, who had pinpoint control, knew he could get away with being an inch or two off the plate, sometimes even more. But if he was consistent with that, he'd get that call.
And that was my first thought, is somebody like Greg Maddox or even a John Lester who will expand the strike zone. So these guys aren't going to have to expand their swing like they normally do. So I hope it doesn't go that way for the MLB, because I think it takes too much out of that mental part of the game for a hitter.
Mark, I want to ask
you're going to see your ERA is going to shoot up, because ball through strike zone now.
A no-hitter will be very.
Mark, so here's a question for you. Elliot froze in the middle of his comment. I think it's quite funny. His face is frozen up on the screen. I'm going to leave him there because I think he looks better that way. So speaking of umpires, though, what is the one umpire behind the plate that you didn't want to see back there, that you seem to have a tough time with, or maybe he had a reputation that he was a little stingy? Who was that?
DeMiro. The Italian guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little skinny guy. Ate a lot of Italian food. Real ass wipe.
Okay. Mark, I don't want to take up too much of your time here tonight, but I do want to, and please, I hope you grant this request, because this is my absolute all-time favorite. I've repeated the story, and I cannot repeat it like you. It was a chapter in one of your books, and if I'm not mistaken, now I'm going to screw it up. I think it was on the 8th day God created baseball. I could be wrong about the book.
Made baseball, yeah. Made baseball.
Okay, great. The chapter was "Mistake by the Lake." Granny gets cold cocked.
Granny gets cold cocked, right?
That's
all-time
favorite.
Older. Well, that was kind of interesting, because Cleveland, back in the day, in the old municipal stadium, it seated 90,000+, and we used to go in there where they had 8,000, and nobody wanted to play in Cleveland anyway or go to a ball game. But you'd see 8,000 people in there during batting practice, and you say, "Jesus Christ, there's a bunch of ants in here," because it was just like scattered. So anyway, when the game started, it was just still scattered. But twice a year, they had where they packed the stadium. They had 60,000+, and they would give cars away every inning. So you had all these fans come out of the woodwork, in Cleveland. And, Cleveland was the river burned down there, for one thing. I asked the cab driver when I came in one time. I flew into Cleveland and was to meet the club. And so I take the cab, and we're going over right about that time, we're going over that river right there. And I said, "So what's so hot about the Cleveland here?" He said, "Well, we got a river. Matter of fact, this is the river where it burns, Or there might be a fire on it right now." I said, "Well, that's really good. It's cool." So anyway, I gathered from that, that Cleveland was a real interesting place. And the bullpen had a pillbox down there. It was a concrete, and it was all, it was built like in the 20s or 30s or something. And, all they did was pour concrete into this place, and they kept pouring and pouring and pouring, didn't stop, and, but so they had this pillbox down there, and it's great because the night that I'm going to tell you about, we really needed that pillbox. So we're on the opposite side. We're on the third base side. The bullpen's on the first base side, right above Cleveland's dugout, about 65, 70 feet or so, somewhere in there. But we're catty corner from our dugout, so they can see us, we can see them, which is kind of bad sometimes. Because I was always trading balls for dogs all the time, and stuff like that. And we come down to the seventh inning and want to get somebody loose, and are there any balls left in the ball bag? So sometimes you run out of balls, But anyway, we're sitting over there, and we go across the field to our the bullpen right before the game, and we had not been used very much in about 5 days. Our starters had been really doing the job. Well, that night, Dennis Leonard was going to be a little bit off, and Larry Gurr was going to come in the 6th inning, and I got up, and he got into trouble, and so Galen Cisco, the pitching coach, calls down and says, "Hey, get Country going." So anyway, Bob Stinson's warming me up, and I'm sitting there, and I'm getting heated up pretty fast, like normal. And this bullpen must have been 20 feet high. There's no possible way you could throw a ball out of this joint, but I found one. Anyway, I'm sitting there getting loose, and it's close quarters anyway, and these fans are just hanging over the rail, had beers and everything. It's packed, and for sure, I threw a pitch. It slipped out of my hands just like there was goose shit on my fingers or something, and it just went flying. I mean, over the wall, over the guy's head out there, that, all these guys having beers. It was like there was a loose Scud missile up there somewhere. And so Stinson, he lifts his mask up and he starts, grinning and laughing at me. He throws both of his hands up. What happened? I said, shit, I don't know. 5 seconds later, our bullpen's getting, just bombarded, like parachutes of beer and hot dogs and everything, and popcorn and everything else. And it's getting filled up really quick. And so we all had to dive into the pillbox right there. And so, Galen goes down. He says, "What the hell's going on down there?" He says, "What?" And Doug Bird answers the phone. He says, "Well, I think Country let go of the ball and it went up in the fans and must have hit somebody." He said, "No shit." He said, "Well, is Country ready?" And he said, "Hey, Country, you ready?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm ready." Shit. He said, "Because you can't use the pen because everybody's just still throwing stuff down." So I guess somebody got drilled. And sure enough, 2 minutes later, Whitey calls down. Whitey never calls down to the bullpen. He said, Birdie answers, he said, "Birdie, what the hell is going on?" He said, "I guess Country drilled somebody down here." He says, "Put Country on." And so Whitey says, hey, you, Airhead, you loose?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm loose." He said, "Hey, okay, I tell you what, when I go out there and I touch that third baseline, you think you can jump that fence?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, your key is when I hit the third base line, you jump that fence and don't stop at the gate. Jump the fence and go on out to the mound." I said, "I got you." So anyway, Whitey comes out about a minute later to get, Gurr off the mound, and I come into the game, and sure enough, these fans are all standing over there. There's probably 20,000 still standing. They're not sitting, they're standing, the whole right field side is. Anyway, I make it out there, and I got pelted a little bit. So I go out the mound, and Whitey's standing there with his commander stance. He's got his hands in his pocket in the front, and he's chewing. He's kind of snickering. He said, "Now, what the hell did you do to get us all in this kind of shit?" And I said, "Well, it's like I had goose shit on my fingers, and the damn ball just sailing up there. And I guess I must drill somebody." And sure enough, I looked up in the stand. There's this gurney up there carrying somebody out, So, he says, "Get us off the field." I said, "No problem. See you later." So, him and Buck were out there, Buck Martinez, and Buck was laughing too. Of course, right now when I'm taking my warm-up pitches, the stands are starting to move and start to stand up a little bit and they keep moving toward. What they're doing is they're spreading the word. They're saying, there's an asshole on the mound out there. He just drilled somebody. So, it's louder and shit, I'm just kind of snickering, So I get the out. I come in, and Galen says to me, since I hadn't much work, he said, "Country, you want another inning?" I said, "Hell yeah, why not?" So I go back out there, after we don't score. I go back out. I get a 3-up, 3-down inning. That's cool. But when I was warming up again, now it's like 3/4 of the stadium. There's an asshole on the mound out there. And it was worse. So anyway, I had some stuff thrown at me, I guess, from the dugout when I was coming into the dugout. It had reached the box seat, that I was here. Hey, there's the asshole. So anyway, I go up, and it's in the 8th inning, and so I take my uniform up, and I go up the runway and take my uniform off, and there's like 3 or 4 guys up there. And Dennis Leonard's up there, Jim Wolford's up there, Jim Coburn's up there, and 2 clubhouse guys and me. And I jerk all my stuff up, just throw it anywhere I want to throw it. And so I'm going to go grab the spread because, I'm just going to start eating some of this stuff. So I'm sitting there, and Bill Beck comes in. He's our traveling secretary. He's dressed to the hilt, coat and tie and all that. And everybody's over there, and he says, and Jim Colburn said, "Country, did you mean to throw that ball up in the stands?" I said, "Hell no." So Bill Beck comes in, and he was up at the top, and so he comes all the way down. I said, "Hey, Country, how you doing?" I said, "Fine." He said, "Hey, I got a question for you." I said, "Shoot." He said, "Hey, did you mean to throw that ball? Did you mean to let that ball get away from you or something?" And I said, "No." He said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "No." He said, "Well, that's good enough for me." He said, "Let me tell you what happened." I said, "Yeah, go ahead." He said, "Well, apparently that ball hit an older lady." I said, older lady. And, and it knocked her out. And I said, "Well, I had a little heat on it." I said, "I had a little heat on it." And he said, "Yeah, I did." And so that's who they were carrying out on the gurney. And I said, I could envision this. I'm sitting there, envisioning this grandma sitting there with her grandson and just watching this game. She gets smoked and she's landing in his lap. Shit. So anyway, Bill said to me, he says, "Yeah, she's, I was an older lady, and my Boy Scout and my ADD kicked in at the same time, my Eagle Scout stuff." So I said, "Well," and everybody was listening to me. And I said, "Do you think I should sign a ball for her?" everybody, starts. They're not laughing. They're howling in the. And Bill and Beck just kind of looked at me and just kind of shrugged his shoulder and walked back out.
Did you?
Lived.
She lived. Okay. That is. Did you actually sign a ball for her, or was did that just go away?
No,
right
he went away. I said, "Well, I wouldn't sign a ball for her." Shit. What the hell?
Boy,
a good old country boy. You got to give her something. When you want to stick a dynamite.
Oh boy, the best story from professional baseball I have probably ever heard of something that's actually happened and that's real. And Mark, it's always so great, and we could literally talk to you all night, and you're welcome on anything I do at any point in time. You've been great. You've been very generous with your time. And I want to give my son, he's on here now, and I believe he can. I've taken him off mute. He can talk. He's 15. Good. Big time Cardinal. He's free. He's free of school right now, but he's still in quarantine there in Illinois. But Braden, Mark was a pitcher for the Royals and the Cardinals. He was on the '82 championship team. Anything that you want to ask a veteran of the game, and you can't ask him about MLB The Show because I don't know.
Right.
But go ahead. If you want to ask a big league pitcher anything, what would you ask him?
I would ask, how do you think you would do in today's game?
Good question.
Against today's hitters.
That is a good question. I think I do really well because a lot of these guys are geared on fastball, and they're not so much pitching so much. They're throwing a little bit more, and you have a lot more breakdown with these pitchers nowadays. I think we pitched more, you might say, because I know it's stupid, and I laugh at it, but I lead the Cardinals in strikeouts as a reliever. And it's funny. You see all these big names in the Cardinal directory, and then you come down to Mark Littell. You got Gibson and everybody else, on there. And, Brock and things of that nature. But I think I would be just fine because my best pitch actually was my slider, and I could get it over better than my fastball. And my fastball was 93 to 95 and even better at certain times. It did not matter, but you had to have movement, as well. And I think we were more set on movement, and we didn't break down like that either. We 3 times I pitched 100 innings with 60 plus appearances on that. And there's only 40 people that have done that one. I mean, I don't know. I just find these statistics out from people like your father.
Yeah, that's right. My dad broke that. It's like, oh yeah.
Yeah, really. You know.
Yeah.
You know. So it's kind of interesting. No, I would do just fine. And, you know, you have to be a little bit cerebral out there. You just can't say, I throw hard. Well, shit, they don't carry through 100 miles an hour. They'll hit 100 miles an hour. Then look at Chapman and look at the kid with the Cardinals that broke his arm. But a lot of people break nowadays. And there's a lot of Tommy Johns and there's a lot of Tommy Johns.
That's very true, Mark. It seems like the shelf life for and these guys, we've talked about it on here before, the shelf life for middle relievers, hell, even closers these days seems like it's about 3 years, right, guys? I mean, the really good ones, of course, they stay, but too oftentimes you get pitchers like Mitchell Boggs from the Cardinals who had 2 or 3 really good years, and then he never found his way back. Segris is another one for the Cardinals. Fans on here probably have a handful as well.
The kid that throws real hard that had Tommy John last year.
Oh, Jordan
Hicks.
Yep.
And you say, well, is he going to make a comeback? Well, he might come back, but he had some command issues to begin with. I mean, but on the other hand, will he learn how to pitch a little bit, because he might come off of that? I'm sure 3 to 4 miles an hour, maybe. Who knows? So yeah. You gotta learn another way to get people out. So every year is a different adjustment, because the hitter knows you, and you have to adjust from year to year. I actually learned that from Jim Cott. Jim Cott had 26 years in the big leagues, and he was the first guy to ever really tell me in that way he did that he had to make an adjustment from year to year and to survive. And he did it for 26 years. So there you go.
Wow, that's a long time. I mean, I know there's a handful of other names I can think of that were even around baseball that long. And the adjustment thing, Mark, and I know that obviously this, it goes beyond just pitchers, but we see hitters kind of fall into the same thing too. And the thing is, we as fans, we only have access to what we have access to, but it's it feels like at least optics show you that. Take somebody like a Matt Carpenter. If you polled a lot of the let's call them just fans that are halfway paying it. Let's call it the fans that only read the headlines of the article and not the article. Are going to tell you he just won't adjust to the shift. Really believe that a player like him or any of the others are really not trying to adjust, or are they just stubborn and this has always worked for me, I'm going to stay true to myself mindset? Like, what have you seen mostly?
I think you have to adjust. I mean, or you won't survive. Because, there's nothing wrong with taking the ball the other way and survive. You can drop bunts down there where these guys are playing. I remember John Mayberry, they used to pull the shift on him back even in 76. And Big John was out there and he'd drop a bunt down there. He'd just go laughing down the line. And, it's kind of funny. He'd look in our dugout laughing all the way down the line. He got on base, but, if nobody's on base, why not? Drop a bunt. It's a single. I mean, you got a pretty good guy hitting behind him, McRae or whoever, Brett, whatever. So it didn't matter, just as long as you had, on base percentage right there. And you can still strike up a 2-out rally at that time. Doesn't matter. And nothing's etched in stone on the baseball field. It is a game of inches.
So I want to kick it back over to either Cubs fan here, Mark, to get any last words in. I just to let you know, my co-host from the beginning, his name's Pete, and he's wearing a mask inside of his own house with nobody around him. He's kind of odd, but I'll send it to him because he's got a look. I can't see his mouth, but he's got a look in his eye that he wants to ask something. So I'm speculating here. I could be wrong.
Great.
Well, I was just going to ask him the question that Braden didn't ask him. What do you think your player rating would be on MLB The Show?
I didn't watch MLB The Show. There's so many guys out there, speculating. I mean, good grief, whatever. It changes because, you guys get injured so much sometimes that can change, I don't know, in a minute.
Mark, I will throw this question at you because this is from a viewer on the live feed right now. What is the difference? What is different about the conditioning today too many torque on the elbow? Like, what's the I don't know. That's a pretty good question because I don't know what conditioning was kind of like at a period of time when you played, and what did you see when you were coaching, and what do you see today?
Oh, the one thing is that I noticed when I came over with the Royals were the team of the 70s actually, because they were very innovative, and they kind of came out of the woodwork. And thank goodness that they had somebody like Ewing Kaufman who wanted to see his players excel. Obviously, he's an owner and he wants to, go to the series and go to the playoffs and things of that nature. We stretched a lot more back then. We didn't do the weights. Matter of fact, the very first weight system I ever saw was in 1978. And it had been setting in June. It was the Nautilus machine, and the Cardinals had bought it, and I did not even know about it. We were Gieselman back in the training room. There's like 4 or 5 of us just standing around just talking. So we got a weight machine over in the next room, which nobody ever went into. I said, really? And, I didn't say, we all did. So we all went over there. We flipped the switch on, and the light just like it was like dun, dun, dun. It was a Nautilus machine. Probably cost $25,000 back then. It probably cost $2,000 now. But that was the Nautilus machine, and we looked at it and we said, "Geez, got to be kidding." There's a good thing about it, but players right now are they're too buff almost, it seems like. So you're going to break down if you get short in the muscles. And you look at, I hate to say this, but you look at like Satchel Pages and, long, lengthy muscles. Guys just didn't break like that back then.
Yeah. And even just, paying attention, not comparing how this stuff has compared year over year. It sure feels like that. Like Tommy John surgery. I don't know how many ever were around when you played or even when you coached, but guys, it feels like, and you guys probably agree with me, we've got 2 or 3, if not more, every year just in the big leagues, right? To where guys are out that long. And I tell you, Mark, my exercise equipment of choice, and I was such a good ball player, I ended up enlisting in the United States Marine Corps. That's how good I was.
Good for you.
My workout equipment of choice is a shake weight. I have it out here in my garage.
There you go. There you go.
Well, hey, Mark.
Yeah.
Pete's doing the motion. That's great. Mark, I know that another thing, I'll let you get a plug in here on your company, Nutty Buddy, protective cups. Tell us a little bit about that, because you have some great viral videos where you've put out there on the system. You've taken a 90 mile an hour jugs machine pitch straight to the groin. On
heater to the Peter.
Heater to the Peter. There you
go. Here we go, folks. But no, I stand there and take it like stood behind my product the whole 9 yards. And people say, "Oh, how can you take that?" So I know my product. So I invented the Nutty Buddy, and it's anatomically correct, and and people. I go to shows and I've been to testings and stuff like that. And I'm standing around with my arms crossed, these little engineers over there sitting there clapping their little hands, when they test my cup and stuff like that. And they come over and they ask me and said, "Ho, are you engineer?" I said, "Oh, I'm a redneck in Southeast Missouri." and let them know that, well, how you figure this out? I said, "Well, you ever heard of form follows function?" So, anyway, I nailed it with it's anatomically correct, and I'm really proud of it. And it's when the patents wear out, everybody will be going to that because it works and it's comfortable. And so we got 5 sizes: hammer, boss, hog, trophy, Mongo. That's how they sell.
So even if you take the trophy, you have to the hog. There you go.
I'm a Mongo guy. I'm not a trophy guy.
Okay. But even if you had to, you'd be like, "Hey, you take it up to the lady up there at the counter and say, 'Hey, ring me up for my hog,' right?"
That's for the little guy that says, "Hey, baby, ring my hog up," and then every 8th grader wants to wear a Mongo. he's checking out a Mongo with a good looking chick at the counter.
And
You
then,
better go back to the drawing board, buddy.
Mark, as always, one of the best podcast guests I think I have ever had the pleasure of talking to or even heard on a show. But I can't thank you enough for your time tonight. And I know that you'll be out and about as soon as restrictions lift. You'll be out visiting veterans again, doing work with your company. And I'm looking forward to your latest book.
Yep.
And did you do the audio version of that? Because that's when I enjoy the most, when you're actually doing the audio.
Actually, I am gonna do the audio on this. I think I'm gonna try to do the audio on this myself. And
okay.
Stop and start and get it right. But anyway, I would like to have my voice in the book this time, and see how that goes. But there's some really good stories on this, and it's about coaching days. I had 18 years of coaching with 4 different organizations, and I started out in Australia. I have 6 different on Australia, and they're all pretty good. They'll keep you right there. They're kind of humorous, and they're all true, unfortunately. So I went kangaroo hunting with the Aborigines. They took me kangaroo hunting every time I was over in Port Hedland. I loved it, and I went barefooted, and they went barefooted at night, and they really warmed up to me when I, took my shoes off.
I tell you what,
of course, they badass snakes over
there. Yes, exactly. And if there's one continent I don't want to walk around barefoot on, that is Australia right now. But once again, Mark, you've been great. Thank you so much for dialing in tonight. Pleasure talking to you, and I look forward to it again. We'll do it again sometime.
We'll catch up. You have a good one, guys. Catch up.
Thanks, Mark.
Dude, thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, so that's Mark Littell, and I wanted him for like 5 or 10 minutes tonight. I thought, he last minute notice that he might be busy, so I don't want to eat up any of his time. But this is typically anytime I've talked to him, even just on the phone a few times, I get these stories. It's just, you can't stop. I had to force myself to stop tonight, and because I know that 1, we're on his clock, and 2, we've got to do the rest of the show.
You know what, though? I don't know that there's a better way for us to kind of put a bow on this era of the show.
Yeah,
than with
absolutely.
a great storytelling appearance like that from a former Major League Baseball player.
Yeah, it is pretty fantastic. And, I know he commented on the post, I think the show post that I put out to several groups, and he commented on a few of them. He told that one story, and I fought the urge so bad. I'm like, no, this is last minute. I can't do this to him, to have him call in. It's his night. He might be busy or doing whatever. But not 60 seconds after I sent him that DM, he dialed up. So I appreciate all the time he spent. I've at least talked to him for 3 or 4 hours on a podcast. He's been my guest. I think I met him through Chris Lawless's Cardinals Nation 24/7 when I first talked to him. I talked to him again on Cards on Deck. He's full of great stories. And I tell you what, I have to pull up the on the 8th Day God Made Baseball. Is one of his books. The other one is Country Boy. I'm going to get the title wrong on this one. It's like Country Boy Gone Wild or something like that. But I can't wait to see his third one. He actually sent me an excerpt on this third one several months ago, just to kind of give him some feedback on it. And it is a wildly great story, kind of like the one he told to open up when he called. So just thank Mark Littell again, and check out his company, Nutty Buddy. Just go search it on YouTube. There's some great viral
it's
videos.
Like a Ferrari for your crotch.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. All right, guys. What we were talking about earlier was just kind of fatigue with the news around baseball. I mean, just the desperate feeling that everybody has to talk about something mildly interesting. People, look, I don't blame anybody for doing what they're doing, right? We're all kind of like, what the hell do we do? Like, if baseball is a thing that you must have on a daily basis, you're going to look desperate out on social media saying, I miss baseball time and time again. You're going to be going through your top 10 players, your favorite teams, the most enjoyable seasons, best playoff moments, Mount Rushmores of players. It's just like, enough, right? I'm like, I can't do it anymore.
And it looks like there's a breakthrough, right? Looks like we're finally settling into what the possibility of baseball returning, but I got to tell you, guys, just based on what I've been reading, and Braden can't, Braden can't relate to this. Ron, I know you can, and I assume you can as well, Elliot. But the more that is coming out about from players, from owners, about financial considerations and safety and everything, I got to tell you guys,
I got a bad feeling about this.
I'm seeing 1994 all over.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance, but I was gonna try and see if Mark would give kind of his opinion on what the players' purview was on this, of whether or not their biggest concern was health, or was it just getting on the field.
And I think that that's the problem. Is I think there's no consistent. There are some guys who are terrified about health because of family or because they have pre-existing conditions, and then I think there are just some guys who are like, I'm not getting out there unless safety is an ostensible concern, but you got to pay me to get out there. And I think that there are some baseball teams that are legitimately saying that they're going to lose. I mean, it was announced today. The Cubs have said to the front office, everybody's taking a pay cut. And the numbers are out that the Cubs are set to lose. I think it's 150 or 170 million dollars this year.
I mean, the biggest thing is probably tickets right now,
right? Because that's where they make money,
right? Well, and then second is going to be concessions.
Right.
That's where their second loss is, and they've had zero of both of those, which is their biggest revenue makers, besides TV. Right. So I mean, at least without the fans, they can get those TV considerations. But and it's not just the Cubs; it's everybody, and it's worse except for the Sox because they don't sell tickets, and so they can't sell concessions. But whatever.
Well, I mean, you're right, Ellie. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. Like ticket sales are no doubt.
Yeah.
Well, I can't because I don't know because I don't get to look at anybody's books. But you would assume that ticket sales overall are the number one source of revenue for every team. You would have TV network deals that would. I'm guessing again. I don't know. I'm guessing TV revenue is the second, and merchandising sales mixed with concessions 3 or 4. I don't know that, but.
And I think it depends on the team. What that mix
is. That's true.
It does, Pete, and you're right because sometimes, well, I guess in most cases, the concessions and vendors are outsourced, right? That stuff's outsourced, and so you're paying. You're not making, the profit you would make as if you were employing and doing that yourself, right? I get it. Your overhead may be a little bit less, but you're taking a margin on that stuff, and I don't know what it is. Nobody has. I don't have visibility to any of that, so.
And I'll tell you what, anybody who thinks that that they're not going to make the same mistake that they did in 1994, I've got 2 words for you: Jerry Reinsdorf. One, if you weren't paying attention to The Last Dance, Jerry Reinsdorf is just as responsible for the Bulls breaking up as Jerry Krause. And 2, we know in retrospect, Jerry Reinsdorf was one of the prime movers in the reason that baseball was canceled in 94. He was the one who was pushing for the owners to take a hard line in 1994 that ultimately led to the strike. So if you don't think that the owners would hold out on this, you're sorely mistaken. I could see Reinsdorf leading a block of owners pushing to try and get the players to make concessions.
Yeah, I don't doubt that, Pete, and he won't be alone. There'll be others that'll be involved. But speaking of The Last Dance, guys, I got some catching up to do on that. I have not watched the thing in its entirety. I know it's fantastic. I watched the first 4 episodes, but I've got to catch up on it. The day job has been, let's just call it not brutal, but it's been very. It's asked for a lot of engagement from me. Many hours a day. It's finding time to do it hard. I've got to catch up on that series, but. To your point, Pete, when this whole thing started, I didn't compare 94 to what's happening now at the time because 94 was a dispute between players and owners. There was no pandemic that interrupted baseball. It was them. It was those, and you had a split between fans. Some thought it was an owner. Thump pump. Is that thump pump?
No.
Rick, is that you?
Nope.
Okay, can we look at your whole face? Just even for an instant. Thank you. So anyway, in 94, it was you were pissed off at either owners or players, and I think most of us kind of irritated with players. And then you come to what's happening now. Yeah, it's an interruption in baseball, but it was out of their control at the beginning. It's taken a turn, which I was afraid it was going to eventually, where it becomes less about the pandemic interrupting the thing, and it's more about the players and owners can't agree to get back on the damn field. And that's always, I don't know, man, this is a slippery slope every time, right? If you can't sometimes blame a player for not wanting to expose themselves to risk, but then that's not what it's talked about. It's talked about salary. It's talked about pay cuts, and that's the headline.
The money has been the biggest thing out there right now, which makes, and we don't know if it's the owners trying to make the players look petty, and they're the reason why we're not watching baseball. Because they're the ones controlling the headlines.
Here's what I think it is. They signed that interim agreement back in March, probably with the thought that, this is only going to be a few weeks. Spring training is only going to get pushed back until maybe April or May. We'll be able to start in mid-May, early June. And so they signed that interim agreement saying, yeah, we'll pay you a prorated portion of your contracts. But that was under the assumption probably that they were going to get 80 or 90, or I'm sorry, like 90 or 100 or more games into the season. And now it's looking like 82 is the top end of what they can expect. And the owners, I'm sure, have run the numbers and said, we're going to take a bath if we pay players a prorated number based on 81 games. And so now they're trying to go back, and the owner and the players are saying, hey, look, we signed an agreement in March, and that's what it is. I think they both look petty, and I think it's hard to come down on either side, because I don't think that either side is entirely in the right, nor are they entirely in the wrong, which leaves us as fans completely fucked.
Yeah. No, and you're right, Pete. I mean, there's, again, just like it was in 94, it's going to be a split with who you're pissed off at for in this instance. Braden's found his way back on. He's wandering. He's like me in a meeting at work. I wander in and out. Sometimes I don't say much. People will sometimes only see me playing with my hair, like he's doing right now. But yeah, Pete, I agree. This is going to be one of those things that depending on attention span. Did you know what caused it, or is it just about taking a pay cut, or playing in a stadium without fans? I don't know how they're. Here's an interesting thing, guys. I don't know. Shame on me for not even Googling it while we were talking. He's gone again. Jesus Christ. How is the KBO doing this, right? And I don't know if their players have the same liberties and union and everything that MLB has, but it doesn't seem like it. They have a whole posting system and everything, but I don't know how they're handling it over there, right? I don't know what their revenue deficit is by not having fans in the seats, and I'm assuming it's pretty significant, but they're doing it. I don't know what rights their players have versus Major League Baseball, but I don't really know where I was going with that. Other than it's a case study that's there, but I think it's more of a case study for how you handle the pandemic, getting players back onto the field, and it's probably less about looking at it financially. How should Major League Baseball handle it versus how the KBO? So I just don't know the differences between the two. So it's kind of an unfair, it may be an unfair comparison. I'm not sure, but I just look at.
They probably don't make the public pay for those $1 billion stadiums, so
they may. But yeah, no, that's a good point. I
would imagine that the economics of baseball there are very, very different because you have a smaller country, fewer teams.
The salaries probably isn't as large as it is in the U.S. So the overhead's probably not as much.
Right. Yeah, it's a completely different beast, I would imagine.
Travel's a little less.
Yeah.
Right?
A lot less.
You would think, right? And there's no flights from Seattle to New York. You can't.
Are there any flights at all?
Depends on what North Korea is doing, I guess. I mean, so, but I I think by the time we get baseball back, we'll all be happy to see it. I just hope they don't sour it with this delay. Now, the players may get the proposal. From what I read on the CBS report yesterday was they may get the proposal from the owners of Major League Baseball as early as tomorrow if they don't have it already, and we'll start hearing some opinion and comment on it. So I guess the news or response is coming kind of quick. It could come quick, but I guess we'll see. Look, guys, we said this on here before, I think a month ago, that an 82-game season, a half a season I'm perfectly fine with at this point. I don't want to see them stretching. I don't want to see them stretching the playoffs too far into November, and I definitely don't want to see them stretching it into December. I'm fine with the neutral site thing and all the other things that have kind of been thrown around. Okay, fine, I'm okay with that, but I still am planting my flag on that hill. God, don't have a World Series in December.
Well, I don't know if you saw Bryce Harper's. I don't know if it was a tweet or a blog post, but he ran through some ideas that he had, and some of them bore some merit. But the thing that he threw out was, and it was pretty clear, he's open to extending the playoffs later in the year into, it sounds like, December, but then next year pushing the start date of everything back, right? So baseball wouldn't start until May of 2021 to allow a little bit more of an off season, closer to what we usually have, and then in 2022 everything goes back to.
Well, no, I would hope that if that were the case, Pete, that it's a shortened 21 season and not an extended one where that season also reaches into November and December.
Yeah, I think that was his proposal, is that next year would be like, I don't know, 140 games or whatever.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, it should be, I think hopefully, right? Hopefully common sense prevails in a situation like this where we don't disrupt not just one season, but we don't, quite frankly, sorry, Braden, earmuffs, we don't fuck up like the next two.
I'll tell you though, he did throw out there something that we've talked about before that I'm really open to and that I would actually like to see. His suggestion was every Sunday 7-inning doubleheaders for every team. So both games are 7 innings. You do a doubleheader. I would imagine. I think one of the things that could actually help baseball, both in average length of games and in interest and everything, is an openness to ties. I mean, yes, I like seeing a definitive end of the game, but when you're into the 15th inning, it at that point, when you've run to the end of the bench, it's no longer exciting and it is kind of boring.
Yeah, I mean, if it can work for hockey, I mean, it can work for Major League Baseball.
And you just football, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
I would be totally open to it during the regular season. Now, obviously, in the playoffs, it's
on
a
again.
Animal. You need a winner and a loser in the playoffs. You're not going to have a tie.
Right. And that's where you do a lot of your extra innings. They're going to come into the playoffs, and then you play until somebody wins because that's the way it's got to be.
Right. And that would help with so many things: pitcher injuries, DL trips, all that kind of stuff. If you say, we're going to have, I don't know, a 12-inning limit. Right. And if it's still tied after 12 innings, then the game.
Then you don't have your relief pitcher hitting and pulling a hammy on his way to first.
Right. Yeah. And you're gonna have a different approach from managers about trying to win the game because that you've got 3 innings. So you're not gonna save that. You're not gonna sit on that one guy in the
You'll see a lot more aggressiveness.
6 innings.
Yeah. Which will make for more exciting baseball if the coach is going to be aggressive to try and win.
Right.
All right. So, guys, I know we went overtime here. We had, and I agree with you, Pete, what you said earlier. There was actually, we haven't had, I think we've only had Ryan Terrio, I think, on a podcast you and I have been on, a former player. Unless I'm forgetting somebody. So there was no better way to send off the exclusivity of baseball for our podcast than to have a former big leaguer on here with some, look, you know how I feel sometimes about player interviews that I hear on MLB Network and sometimes you see those things and you're like, it's like a straight injection of Novocaine straight into your frontal lobe.
Well, because they're so tightly scripted, right?
Yeah.
The players don't want to say anything controversial, and the hosts don't want anything. I mean, the hosts want something controversial, but they understand that if they burn their sources, their show is going to suffer.
Yeah, that's right.
And what are you doing, Braden?
I don't know what he's doing. He's rubbing sandpaper against his microphone opening.
I was going to say.
as usual.
You rubbing that phone against your crotch there, bud?
Whoa. Yeah. So, but I think to send us off as an exclusive baseball show, to have have a guest like Mark Littell was just fantastic. And Braden, I'm glad you got a question in with him. I don't know why you've been in and out of the show so often. It's kind of
live's horrible.
It is horrible. I agree. And so while we're talking,
we've all managed to stay in the feed,
except Elliot. Elliot ducked out once.
Yeah, for some reason something must have restarted because I lost total connection to my Wi-Fi.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, for those of you who have watched us and maybe only tuned in because we're exclusive to baseball and our rivalry and our two teams, we certainly appreciate you guys who have been most involved, and we'd love you to death. But I think through the course of this whole thing, we found that when we open up the topics that actually interest, we have a lot more interest than just baseball. Believe it or not, we love baseball. We want it back. We want to talk about it, but we don't want to just talk about that. And I think we've all arrived in the same place to where we're kind of like we have so many more things, guys, that we're passionate about. Not one other, but we definitely have other interests, things that make us laugh, things that are interesting to talk about. Let's face it, baseball around the clock doesn't always have interesting things to talk about, I guess, unless you have Mark Littell call in. That's the one exception.
Sure.
But it's not always the most interesting news that we have year round, but we definitely have a lot of other things that get us going, that get us motivated to turn these microphones on every week, to turn the cameras on, to go live, to interact with you, to put out a podcast. I mean, this it's a time. Look, it's not necessarily a monetary cost to do this kind of thing, but it is a time cost. And so we've got a lot of things that we could do. We choose to do this, but we will really want to open ourselves up to other things that make us laugh, make us happy. Call us the whatever you want to call us, but we're going to open it up. So I don't think we're going to be on this shitty broadcasting service in the coming weeks. I think we are going to switch it up. Might cost a little coin, but I think it's worth it. And so the goal for us is to be live, not just on Facebook, like we are right now,
and not on Be Live.
And I was going to say, no pun intended there.
Great 2.0 they've done. That's been a disaster. We plan on going live on our YouTube channel at the same time, as well as Periscope. And our focus is definitely going to be on the platforms that seem to be taking off. And so Periscope and YouTube Live will definitely be a thing. So there'll be several options for you to view, to comment. It'll all be live. So not be live, but it will be live, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Braden, I know we've had some connectivity issues tonight. Your mom pointed out there is a Cubs logo behind your head, at least on the screen. That's just
Looks
the background.
good.
I can't take it out. There's nothing.
I like it.
You turned your phone sideways, which could have been a solution like months ago, but you haven't figured that out yet because you keep playing with your hair. You can only see the top of your forehead. You put a shirt on. That's good.
You
sideways. It fills it
I
up.
feel like I'm talking to my in-laws when you're on the phone, Braden, because I only see this part.
Like talking to my dad.
Yeah. And then I see mostly the ceiling and your fan and then the top of your head.
We've seen more Braden's
That's how I
fans.
go. I just-
Braden throughout the years.
I mean, at least you're wearing a shirt today. That's great.
Yeah. I'm also in the MLB The Show 20 semifinals for the playoffs.
Ooh,
And I won
nice.
game 1 of the semifinals, 8-7.
Have you
Tonight.
torn your thumb's rotator cuff yet? Are you going to have Tommy John?
There you go.
Yeah, because that's what's happened. We talked about it that earlier. These young players, they don't know what to do now, and so he's going to blow something out on one of those digits, and he's going to have to sit out a year, and he's going to have to learn how to play in a different way.
Play with my toes.
I don't think you could do that.
Hey, well, Xbox does make a big-ass controller with big old buttons on it that you could use with your feet.
Like a whack-a-mole game?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. That would be interesting. Pete, any thoughts on this as we kind of end one era of a thing we were doing to moving to a next? Because I said enough, I believe.
No, I think you said it perfectly, Ron.
I'm excited. I'm excited to move into this next chapter with you guys that you've started 3 years ago and to kind of take it into this new direction. And I know my friend back here is very excited too.
There
Don't
he
ever
is.
know.
forget
He was
Schwarber
kind of
watched 17.
hanging out in the background. So
Hey, if you squeeze him, does he say, "May the Schwartz be with you"?
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. I would love that. That what is it? The pop vinyl shit that they do. I would love to see yogurt.
Funko Pop yogurt. That'd
yogurt.
be awesome.
Yeah,
I bet they have it. They've got to have it.
They've got to.
I'll check.
So what do you say, Ron? For the last time?
For the last time,
Let's do it.
For the last time, when we are not live on Facebook, you can find us online at teamarivalspodcast.com, on Twitter at Team Arrivals Pod, and on Instagram at Team Arrivals Podcast. You can contact us by email at the show at teamarivalspodcast.com. On Twitter, you can find Elliot at
TOR_Elliot.
You can find Ron at
TOR_Ron75.
If you
Braden?
are watching us.
Braden,
Oh,
where
and
can they find
Braden,
you?
where can we find Braden on social
You can
media?
find me in the MLB The Show 20 custom leagues.
All right, there you go. If you are watching us live, you can always catch us anywhere you listen to podcasts. We're on Apple Podcasts and every other podcaster that you may use. If you love the show, please leave us a review by going to ratethispodcast.com/TOR. Follow the simple instructions and don't forget to make it good. Ron, we'll be back in a couple, hopefully next week, but at least in a couple of weeks once we figure things out, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
We have to figure out a technical thing because the challenge is we all live in different places. Getting all of our cameras and mics fed through the same thing, which BeLive can do, but it's limited to Facebook or YouTube and not both at the same time. So that's why we are looking for an alternative to get to the platforms that are taking off to have a better trajectory than just Facebook. And so that's why we're doing what we're doing, and we're lining that simultaneously with a different take on the show, a different view, a different premise. I think is much needed, and we're all ready for it. So we're excited. So the next time we're back, might sound a little different at the beginning. The logos might look a little different, but it'll be the same folks here. We won't leave baseball in the cold. We won't treat it like a dog that we wanted 1 week and then didn't want it, and we leave it in the backyard. That's not what we're doing.
We'll just talk about it when it's relevant.
That's right. When it's actually interesting. And I can tell you what, it's not interesting right now. And so I don't want to talk about it. In fact, our first show breaking in, we might not talk about it at all unless there's actually something relevant and significant, and not just a bunch of tweets and unsubstantiated reports that baseball's coming back. So I'm looking forward to it. Braden, please get your last one.
Never forget Schwarber Watch 17, the segment that never came out.
It never came out. I recorded it on my portable Zoom in a car. It was a rap song. It was lost in time.
With Scotty, with Uncle Scotty, who has no idea what baseball was. Then he was just
he does.
yeah.
He still thinks a home run's called a touchdown. So here we go.
Maybe what we ought to do is here we go. Ron, when we monetize this bad boy, right? I think one of the incentives is going to be release to our highest contributors, our highest paid followers. We release to them the lost episode.
I don't
unedited,
recoverable, but we can certainly search through thousands of raw Zoom files to see it anywhere. But anyway, for those of you who have followed us just for baseball, we appreciate it, and we hope yes, that's my kid. So we appreciate everybody's followed us for baseball. We hope you stick with us as we branch out into other subject matter. We certainly will try to stay as entertaining as we always have been, and hopefully we actually are able to expand on that, getting into topics that we think are ridiculous, funny, entertaining, and all that. So I've said enough. I think it's time for us to exit out of here, and we will see you again when we're ready to do it, and hopefully it's a week from now. So until then, we love you all so much. We appreciate you.
Yep.
Bye-bye, everyone.